Hi everyone, and welcome to Flipping Heck Business, Flip Learning for AQA A-Level Business Studies. Now this is Unit 3, this is video number 10, and it is part of the Marketing Mix series. So, contents. Now, like I said, this is from the Unit 3, which is decision making to improve marketing performance. The content here is taking on from the 7 Ps, and this is looking at effectively place, which is covering distribution channels. So contents are methods of distribution, choosing the appropriate distribution, and then increasing the use of multi-channel distribution. So what it actually links to, so when you're actually doing your exams and you're like, if you get a larger like mark answer, 16, 20 or 25, then really you're going to want to be able to link it back to other areas of the curriculum. So here with distribution, certainly place, you can link it with e-commerce, business locations, customer service, inventory management, technological change, and market segmentation. So let's start. So what exactly is place? So when we're talking about place, it's a part of the marketing mix that is concerned with getting the product from the producer to the customer. So it's getting the product from the producer to the customer. So thinking about like which retailers you're going to have, which like wholesalers you might use. Are you going to be serving it online? Are you going to be distributing it yourself? Right. Now we use distribution channels, which is the method that the product is conveyed from the distributor to the final user. So it is actually like how you get it from where it's being made to the customer. So when we're talking about distribution, really what we're talking about is like, who is the target market? So you've got to ask yourself, so how can a business ensure that its products reach existing and potential customers? How and where do customers prefer to buy the product? How important are factors such as stock availability, price, speed? Is it something that they buy weekly? Is it something that they buy daily? Is it something they buy only once and then after that they buy other products around it? So you've got to take into effect like all of these factors, like how easy is it for the target market to get to the actual item? If it's difficult, are they going to bother? So distribution channels themselves. Now, there are several ways that you can actually look at this. So we've got direct channel, which is going producer to consumer, retail channel, so producer to a retailer to a consumer, wholesaler channel, which is producer to a wholesaler or distributor, retailer, and then consumer. And then we've got the agent channel, where it might be producer going through to an agent or a broker, who will then go on to wholesaler or distributor, or they could even jump that, go to retailer and then to customer themselves. So what distribution channels are you meant to use? So it really all depends on your product. It depends on your target market. So the length, if we went back, then you would actually see that you've got channel length. There's a direct or indirect approach. Are you going to be using a wholesaler or any other intermediary? Are you going to use just one, or are you going to use several channels? I mean, like there are multiple companies out there, like such as Apple, who would use a wholesale, like they would produce the item, then they have their own shop, so they go straight to retailer, straight to consumer. Produce it straight to consumer. They might use other people's shops, such as the going through EE, so it would be from them to EE, which is the retailer, to consumer, or they could use wholesaler, where like you might be able to bulk buy items. Right. Then also you've got to work out like just how to move the goods through those channels, and then finally control over the channel. So who decides on price, promotion, packaging? So distribution channels can serve more than one purpose, however. So yes, they do provide a link between production and consumption, but they also gather market information, so you can actually gather data from this. Then you can communicate your promotional offers, like so a wholesaler might be able to say, right, well, we've got these deals on. Retailers will do it for you as well. It lets you find and communicate with prospective buyers. You're not just limiting yourself, waiting for people to come to you. You're putting it out there for everybody to find. The physical distribution, so I mean like they can transport and store. So instead of you having a massive warehouse full of millions and millions of phones or goods, then you can spread it out amongst everybody else and they'll support and like maybe pick it up and maybe store it for you as well. And then there's financing, so other parties finance the stock, so it means that again you're not waiting for that item to have been sold and risk taking. So like some of the risk goes to them. I mean, like they're going to buy the product from you first, and then they're going to take the risk, aren't they? They've got to rely on others buying it afterwards. So a few things that you need to know then. So retailers. Retailer is like anything like generally shops anyway. So key advantages of retail distribution is that it's convenience. Like they're usually situated quite well for customers. They're often UK wide, so you know there will be large chains. The retailers choose the final price, so you don't have to like deal with any kind of like bargaining or arguments. They will handle the financial transaction, so you don't take any money from them. It's all done electronically between you and the retailer, but they're the ones who actually deal with the cash. And they hold stock for you as well. And also, a lot of the time, there's like the after sales support, so you get like your returns, etc. Now, there are various kinds of retailers. So there's multiples, so chains of shops, which is owned by a single company, like Tesco, Sainsbury's, Next. Specialist chains, so like anything that might be fast fashion or perfume. Um, Department stores, so we've got like Debenhams, John Lewis. Convenience stores, things like Spar, Cost Cutter, Premier. Independent, so like just people run by like shops run by a normal owner, and then franchises as well. So like retail format operated by a franchisee. So they're just people who might have bought the name from the overall like owners of a particular franchise. Um, we'll just sort of be dealing with everything through them. Okay, so wholesalers. Now, these, as you can see, this is part of the supply chain. So producer, wholesaler to retailer to customer. So what a wholesaler does is that they will buy in large quantities. So they will buy huge quantities from the producers. Then they will break the bulk and they will break it into smaller quantities to then sell to retailers. So think like Kellogg's would sell like maybe 1 million boxes to a company like Booker's, who would then send it out to all of their retail wholesalers, and then they would break down those into smaller bulks. And then, of course, a corner shop could come along and just purchase like 10, 20, 30 boxes of cereal, or however many they wanted to just keep in their store. Now, the advantages of this is that it reduces down the producer's transport cost. They've only got to send to the wholesaler, who will then distribute as they see fit. So it means that there's fewer journeys just to one company, as opposed to many, many journeys to individual retailers. If there's 80,000 corner shops in the UK, then Kellogg's would actually have quite a hard time trying to get each and every item to the individual shops, especially if they're just sending 20 or 30, like, you know, not even 20 or 30, maybe even like 5 or 10 boxes of cereal at a time. Then the retailers find it easier because it means that they can order in smaller amounts from a wholesaler instead of having to like bulk buy to get like a cheaper deal, or to like if they haven't got enough space. So again, if it's a small retail shop, they might not have all the storage facilities that are required. Now, the wholesalers will make their money by buying at a lower price from the producer than a retailer would, and then adding a profit margin onto the price paid by the retailer. So it means that, you know, they have got similar buying power to some of the big shops, so like Tesco or Sainsbury's. They'll be able to buy at that low price, and then they'll put what we call a markup on it. That will be then paid by the customer, which means that they will be able to, by the retailer, which will means that they'll make money, and then the retailer will put their own markup on their price, and that's what the customer will pay. So distributors. These are distributors basically take on or sell on products and serve as a local sales point. So they usually specialize in a particular industry. So if it's building supplies or electrical components, industrial clothing, then they might be sort of like a middleman without actually having to like take many of the goods on themselves. So they offer products from a great many producers, so there's like a lot of choice, and then they might have different agents in that distributor that like holds the stock. So they might just be, you know, able to go, right, okay, well, we're the distributor, we can take a certain amount from you, a certain amount from you, a certain amount from you, then they get it passed on to the customer. Then we've got agents. So these are a specialist type of distributor. So they don't hold any of the stock. They do not hold any of it. They are just simply they are an absolute middleman. So they tend to operate in tertiary sectors like travel, insurance, publishing, and they earn commission based on sales achieved. So if you think of a travel agent, then they don't actually hold any of the stock. They don't like sit there owning any of the actual hotels. All they do is simply guide the customer, you, to the producer's goods, and then they just simply sign you up through them, and then they take their own cut from that. Then you've got direct channels. So these are getting increasingly more popular, especially with the sort of advent of the internet, which I know has been around for 30 years, but it's only really come into force and has really changed the way that companies distribute products over the last sort of 10, 15. So there are various methods. So you might do direct mailing, e-commerce, telemarketing. So things like e-commerce where you can actually buy online. Now it's very, very, very important. If you can buy online, it means that you can get the best price. You can sell, distributors can send their goods straight to the customer and give them the best deal possible. And also all the customer service is done through the producer. So it means that if there are any major problems, they can be dealt with quite quickly. So examples of this might be QVC, so there's TV selling, Bowden Catalog, Direct Line, so they do their insurance online. They don't go through brokers. Everything is handled by them, which of course means that there won't be any middleman to take a commission or any kind of wholesaler or agent or anything like that to take a markup price, so you can give the best deal. So reasons to use indirect distribution channels could be that it's geography. So customers may live too far away to be reached directly or to spread too widely, especially if you're selling bulk items. Consolidation of small orders into large ones. So it means that you can send bigger orders off instead of one. Better use of resources elsewhere. So you're not having to actually hire people who are going to be running around trying to do all these little individual orders or tasks. It could be that you've got a lack of retailing expertise. I mean, a steel industry isn't necessarily going to be the best people to be able to sell sheet metal steel on, because they don't understand customers. They understand the raw materials of it. And then also there's segmentation. So different segments of the market can be best reached by different distribution channels. So if you live in farms or fields or fields, if you live in farms or any kind of rural area, then it might be very difficult for you to actually have items produced and sent to you. Or it could be that you're in a city, which again can you might want to have all the items a lot faster and a lot quicker. Well, if you can send out multiple items to different retailers, then those customers can come to you instead of those customers can go to the retailers instead of having to come to you all the time. So when you're answering any questions on distribution channels or moving of goods, a few things that you need to take into consideration. So have an actual read of the question and see what the product or what the goods or service is actually being looked at. So you need to look at the nature of the product. So are we talking food or anything that might be fragile or perishable? Well, the fewer chains, then the more likely the food is going to be, or the item is going to be transported without any damage to it. It's not going to go off if it is food. If you've got if it has to go from the producer to a agent to a wholesaler to a retailer and then to the customer, that's 5 steps that you've got to take into account, and each one adds time to the actual time to the product getting to the customer. So if it's things like bananas or fresh fruit, then that can be a real sort of issue, with time being very, very important, otherwise the item goes off. Then you've got, is it technical or complex? Does it require a lot of explanation from the producer? Is it customized? So wedding cakes, for example, you wouldn't be able to, because people want a personal touch to their wedding cake, then they're going to want to have the producer go straight to them. Or if it is through retail, then they would want it to be, again, someone that they can access the producer ultimately to make any changes to, especially with something so expensive. So again, the type of the product as well. Is it convenience? Is it shopping? Or is it specialty? And then the desired image of the product. Do you want something that's mass marketed, or do you want something that's quite elite? You've also got to look at the market. So is it geographically spread? Is it across a wide area? Is it national, or are we just looking at a particular area, like with takeaways? The extent and nature of the competition. Is there huge amounts of competition? Are they producing something similar to you? What factors have they taken into account? Are they producing it cheaper because they're doing it directly to the customer, so therefore they are at a cheaper price? And then the business as well. So I mean, like, what size are you? Are you a local shop? What nature is it? Is it like local food? Is it that production? And finally, does it have established distribution network already? There probably is some sort of distribution network, and you may actually be asked, well, is a new one a better deal, or like, is it better to go through a direct or an indirect process? So what is multi-channel distribution? So this is where a business will use more than one type of channel. So they will actually look and go, right, okay, so we can do it direct to customer, or we can go through others as well. Now the benefits is that it allows you to target more segments. Customers can increasingly expect products to be available via more than one channel, and it enables higher revenues. So if retail outlets have no stock but customer can buy online, then it means that maybe that price can go up as well. And of course, if the retail outlets haven't got the item and they come to you, you're still charging the price of the retail, but of course you don't need to pay over any of those markups in between. And then drawbacks though is that potential for channel conflict, so competing with retailers by also selling direct can be complex to manage, and there is a danger that pricing strategy becomes confused in the eyes of the customer. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Video number 11 will be following very, very shortly.